Hey everybody, Matt Griswold with you, People Centric Consulting Group. I'm happy to be with you on this beautiful day in Missouri, where we're coming to you from, talking about how to facilitate through technology, a topic that many leaders have been asking about as we've been really getting used to this new cadence of working from home. So we're going to give everybody just a minute or two to log on here, and then we'll spend 15 minutes or so talking about this topic. As always, if you have questions, feel free to let us know. We'll answer any of those specific questions you might have. Answer those specifically for you too, whether it's on this post or beyond. So we'll just give everybody another minute, and we'll get started. As we are waiting, I don't think we have to wait in silence necessarily. Many of you may have hopped on to our webinar yesterday that we did, talking about leveraging and maintaining your culture now in the environment that you're in now to really help propel your success once we get back to a sense of normalcy. I do have to say this as well too. This coronavirus and having people on stay-at-home orders and working remotely. Yes, I know it provides challenges, and there are some challenges that it is providing for us. But at the same time, I have seen tremendous ingenuity and creativity and problem solving. I think we've seen some creativity that's going to last, even as best practices, even once we do return back to our normal work and our normal work routine. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to dive into this topic here, facilitation through technology. This is one of those questions that I have been asked by several leaders. And really the question is, okay, so I finally got the grasp. I finally got the grasp of being able to facilitate an effective meeting in person. But man, through technology now, how do I facilitate a meeting through technology when I'm not there in person, especially if people are maybe just calling in versus the video conference? And then we're going to actually finish the call today, or the little live that we're doing right now. We're going to finish this by actually talking about how do I be a good participant, let alone facilitator in that environment too, because I think it does change just a little bit. Traditionally, we are big proponents of meeting regularly, having a strong meeting cadence and what that looks like for your organization, whether it's weekly, every other week, once a month, those types of things. Larger organizations might get everybody together once a quarter, where they come together there. But whatever that meeting cadence looks like, we've always been a big proponent of that. And right now, it is probably even more pressing to be able to get everybody together at this time, working remotely. We don't have the impromptu drop by your office things that we might typically have in the working environment there. And so, keeping that same meeting cadence is going to be a big thing here. So, the cadence of the meeting. So if you have a meeting and a regular meeting cadence, I would encourage you to maintain that meeting cadence even while working remotely. This is one of those things that, yes, I think we probably did get into the habit of, or at least hopefully you were in the habit of this before work from home became a thing there for your employees. But just because we're working from home does not mean the cadence of the meeting needs to stop. I would encourage you to pick a strong cadence, maintain the cadence of the meeting, and you can use technology to help you do this. It doesn't have to just be a conference call where you're calling in remotely, and that's okay if people don't have strong access to Wi-Fi. But there are different technologies right now. We're using Facebook Live, for instance. Please don't put your team meetings on Facebook Live. But what you could do is Zoom. We at People Centric use Zoom quite a bit for our different phone calls and video conferences. We have clients all over the country, and it's easy to set up a Zoom conference and to be able to utilize that technology there too. We still want to be able to build an agenda. In fact, now working remotely, not only build an agenda, you might send the agenda out ahead of time. You might be used to bringing copies of an agenda to a meeting. Now we have to kind of forward think. So be prepared with the agenda. Think about what the agenda might look like, and then send that agenda out a little earlier than what you might be used to doing, just to give everybody an idea of what the meeting is about and what do I need to be able to come prepared for. Some people wonder, how do I drive participation in those meetings? Same as in person, electronically, digitally, technology-wise. Same concept there. So give them an opportunity to be able to prepare. Not only build the agenda, but I would also encourage you to task other people with agenda items. Some people are pretty smart on the team, and they can take some of those agenda items off of your plate. In fact, sometimes I think one of the misnomers about being a boss or leader is that I have to do all of the talking. And I don't have to do all the talking at all. In fact, this is a great opportunity for succession planning, leadership development. If I can challenge some of my folks to go ahead and take some of those agenda items and task them with doing that and those agendas there. So, in addition to that, once I'm in the meeting, so we've built the agenda, we've created the space, and now I am in the meeting. I want to be able to use technology to my advantage. And one of the ways to drive participation, I could use technology in the form of a couple of different things. A webinar. I could use technology by creating polls or Q&A sections or chats. I can even go to certain websites and create little games or activities to drag and drop onto it if you really want to step up your technology game and give people something to do ahead of time as they are logging in for that meeting too. So lots of great technology to be able to use and to engage other people there too. So looks like we have a question here. How do you facilitate those meetings with more than 5 people? It seems like there can be a lot of interruption or who talks when. And then how do you mitigate and allow everyone to get their voice in? Great question, Bethany. And I think chances are it's probably going to be more than 5 people anyway. And this is why another reason we just got done talking about agendas. It's another reason why the agenda is impactful. I was able to be a part of a meeting today remotely with another organization, and it seemed like there was one participant. This is the first time that I got to be a part of the manager meeting. And it seemed like there was one participant that had a lot to say, but they had to kind of bob and weave and pick their moments of when they were going to talk about what. And so it's interesting. After the meeting was over, I said, "Hey, how did everybody feel about the meeting?" And if we're talking about agendas and you're creating space for talking, this goes right to Bethany's question there. But how do I create that space? And I asked them, how did you all feel about that meeting? And they were like, well, I think it's beneficial. And I said, I think it's beneficial too. But if we think it's beneficial to me, what would make this hour that we have set aside even more fruitful? And one of the participants, I didn't even have to say it. One of the participants actually said, well, I think we could each kind of be accountable for different things. Like, if I'm in charge of sales, or if I'm in charge of events, or whatever, I'll create a space on the agenda. Let's give so and so 5 minutes to talk about the event space if there is an update, and then task them with doing it. This is how you can also create kind of a cadence or back and forth during the meeting. If your staff is aware that there's an agenda that's going to be on its way out, they can also work to get on the agenda ahead of time. So if they have some talking points that they wanted to add, get to the keeper of the agenda. Maybe that's you, maybe that's somebody else that you've tasked on the team, and just create the time, not only the time the slot there or the topic, but you might even associate a time limit with that topic, because meeting integrity is a thing. And we want to make sure that even though we're not at the office, we still have things to do. And so we want to make sure that we are maintaining the integrity of that meeting too. So use the chat feature to include everybody as well. Some people might not feel comfortable just chiming in over the phone with their voice, but there's a chat function on most of those, whether it's Zoom or GoToMeeting or whatever it is that you might use, Teams. Those types of things. There's a chat function, and the chat function can give everybody the opportunity to be able to type in a question that could pop up. And then now I'm asking you as the facilitator to do more here, but then you have to manage the chat room. Or that might even be a fun thing to delegate to somebody else. Hey, manage the chat room for me while I work through the agenda items. Just another way that you can engage people and bring them on. So using the chat feature to include everybody is another good one. Strong agenda. And then here's the other thing too, just, facilitation 101. Here's a pro tip. Be comfortable with silence. See what I did there? Be comfortable with silence. See, silence is one of those, it's the great motivator, right? So many people are, it sounds bad. So many people are uncomfortable with silence that they will disrupt the silence with something to say. So be comfortable with silence. More times than I can count, I have been invited to go to somebody else's meeting when they were struggling with participation. And at the end of the meeting, they'll ask for feedback, and I will simply say, okay, so if we want them to participate, we probably need to stop talking. which is hard, because we as leaders too, or managers or facilitators of the group, might not be comfortable with silence either. And I don't want it to sit there in silence. Clearly, if they haven't answered in 1.5 seconds, then they don't know the answer. But the reality is, here's the tip: if you can just ask the question and then remain quiet for 5 seconds, it sounds like this. And 5. That might be a long time to you. I would encourage you to try to use that tip during the silence, though. Instead of a scowl, focus on your face. If it's a video conference, you can still maintain eye contact with the camera. We're smiling, we're waiting. Our nonverbals are pleasant. They're approachable. Sometimes people don't participate because we terrify them. So we need to be also approachable even through technology. We still should be ending the meetings too with different takeaways. So if there's some tasks that need to be completed, especially working remotely, accountability can be a thing there too, right? So that needs to be something we might even need to take more control over. So anyway, there should be some takeaways at the end of each meeting and what we're going to circle back up on, and when will that circle up happen. So those different types of things are still critically important there. Let's talk about this. What if I'm a participant in one of these technology meetings here, one of these virtual meetings? If I'm a participant, here's some tips for you. Be there. Be there. And what we're talking about by be there is not only physically in your seat. Please don't have some sort of, I've seen some fun videos now of people being creative with, creating a video loop of themselves, or there's an old FedEx commercial where they're cardboard stand up of them. They look like they're in an office, but really they're on a golf course. Those types of things. Just be there, whether it's physical, but also mentally. Be engaged in the conversation. I know as a participant, you could probably be more engaged in the conversation if you have an agenda or some talking points about what's going on, what you're about to anticipate there. So be there physically, be there mentally, and then participate. If the facilitator is asking questions, then help the facilitator out. Answer some questions. We want to have emotional intelligence about answering all the questions, but I think it is one of those things that we could continue just to be available and answer some questions here. Also, dress for the part. We want to dress for the part, and what we mean by that is still get up. Don did a good job on a Facebook video. Actually, incidentally, I think Don and I both did this, but it was when we were mimicking a Zoom call there, and we were talking about dressing for the part. Go ahead and get up when you normally would get up, and go ahead and get dressed like you are going to the office, those types of things. So, dress for the part. We want to keep that in mind, and not only the dress that you're in, but the background. What's in your background? Is it going to be distracting? Right now, I have some wood paneling that's not faux wood. That's real wood. And this up here is, a picture, an autographed picture of the greatest baseball player ever, George Brett. So anyway, but take note of your background. Take note of the dress there too. All right, so Don has a question here. What are some common mistakes that you see in terms of technology, like not muting with background noise? Not muting with background noise, and thanks for the question, Don. Not muting with background noise is not new to virtual meetings. How many of you have been on a conference call whenever there is not muting with background noise? This is something that's pretty easy. I would say maybe to set the stage with that is reiterate that up front, especially if you have microphones turned on. Technology meetings like Zoom, you can choose to have microphones on, or you can choose to mute them. But you might just put that as a precursor. Hey, if you have a lot of background noise behind you, working from home right now too. I mean, kids. Can be a thing too, in and out. If you have a gaggle of kids like I do, then it can be a thing, trying to find a quiet spot in the house to be able to do those types of things. Some other maybe common mistakes might be when people don't realize they're on video and they're walking through the house. I've seen that before too. They're walking through the house. You can clearly see that they're not paying attention. You can hear not only background noise, but you can also hear different car sounds or traffic sounds, or they're ordering from a restaurant. I've heard those things too. Those types of things. And so some common mistakes there with technology. So take note of the background. Take note of the background not only visually, but the background noise too. And then finally, as a participant, I would just say use the technology. if there is a button there to raise your hand, simply click raise the hand. As I'm facilitating the meeting, you can see if that pops up, and then you can ask them to answer a question depending on how the meeting is set up. Use the chat. Technology is awesome. It's one of those things that, and you probably heard this before too, when it works great, technology is great. When it doesn't work great, it can be a disaster. But here's the thing. So often we have many, many tools at our disposal. We're choosing not to take advantage of them. Use the chat room, raise the hand, use the Q&A, create a poll. All these things can be done through different types of, depending on which technology you're using. So whether it is conference call, whether it's video conferencing like this is right now, where you can kind of see me through Facebook Live, I would say that if you have the opportunity to do video conferencing, I would encourage you to do that. We just lose so much communication without the nonverbals there. So if you can see the face of the people that you're talking to, that also is extremely helpful too. So anyway, I hope these tips helped. Maintain contact with our peoplecentric.com. And I would appreciate you doing that. Check out our crisis toolkit. The crisis toolkit will also give you different opportunities to listen to more Facebook Lives or some webinars that we've previously recorded and we're about to record too. So yes, people centric there, wearing pajama bottoms with a shirt and tie and then getting caught. You might remember a local news anchor, Ron Hurst, did that here in Springfield, and so it's been kind of a funny illustration. And so if you are business on top and party on the bottom there, then you might just be careful about how quickly you stand up. Make sure the camera's off before you get up. So pro tip, you're welcome. Anyway, People-Centric Consulting Group, we are here. We are walking through this with you. We enjoy going live. Every day it seems like we have something, whether it's a webinar or a Facebook Live. But beyond that, we really want to interact with you and your companies still, your teams. Our teams are all over the country. Teams are doing awesome work, and you're leading some awesome people. Let's not lose sight of what that looks like. If there's something we can do at a team level, whether it's just to impromptu get on and video chat with some of your folks and just let them use this as a sounding board for a while, we'd love to be able to do that for you too, as we all try to make sense of what this looks like for us. So People-Centric Consulting Group, my name is Matt Griswold. This was Facilitating with Technology. I hope it was beneficial, and we will see you soon.